Halo's greatest enemy isn't the alien zealots of the Covenant, or the parasitic nightmare of the Flood, or even the brutish mercenaries of the Banished. For years, Halo's greatest enemy has been itself, a civil war raging for the better part of a decade. This isn't a conflict fought on mysterious alien ring worlds with advanced weaponry, but in the digital trenches of forums, comment sections, and Discord servers. It's an ideological war for the very soul of the franchise, and it's been waged between three distinct, passionate, and often warring factions of its own fan base. To understand the Great Divide, we have to go back to the beginning, the Golden Age, from 2001 to 2007. It was Halo Combat Evolved, Halo 2, and Halo 3 back to back, and they didn't just define a console, they fundamentally redefined the first-person shooter for a generation of players. And Bungie didn't just create a game, they perfected a formula. It was a philosophy built on what fans would call the golden triangle of guns, grenades, and melee. Each option was equally viable and equally important. You didn't just shoot, you managed a holy trinity of combat choices in every single encounter. And this was all wrapped in a clean and exquisitely balanced competitive sandbox, where your starting loadout didn't matter because everyone started on equal footing. The real prize was map control, timing the respawn of power weapons like the rocket launcher or sniper rifle, and outsmarting your opponent, not outgunning them with a better class setup or a better loadout. This era forged the first and arguably most vocal faction, the classic crowd. These are the fans who fell in love with Halo's specific and deliberate combat rhythm. For them, Halo's an arena shooter at its core, a game of digital chess where skill is the undisputed king. Their frustration didn't just start with a single game. They began to bubble up throughout the original trilogy. Passionate debates over things like Halo 2's netcode, button glitches, and weapon balance becoming early battlegrounds for the competition scene. In their eyes, Halo is a finely tuned instrument, and any change to its core mechanics is a bit jarring to them. New additions in the later games like armor abilities, sprint, and customizable loadouts were not seen as innovations, but as a way to dilute the pure Halo formula. They tend to believe that the series started chasing trends, desperately trying to be more like Call of Duty and other modern shooters that were absolutely dominating the market at the time. And in doing so, they felt that it lost the very essence of what made it so special. To put it simply, they want Halo to be Halo, not another shooter just wearing Master Chief's armor. To outsiders, this group can seem overly intense and downright militant at times, treating the games from 2001 to 2007 like a sacred, untouchable text, but their passion comes from a place of preservation. They see themselves as the keepers of the original flame, and I think they're terrified of seeing it extinguished. Now, I remember getting an Xbox in 2001 with Sega GT 2002 and Jet Set Radio Future. Badass Split. They should come out with more Split games. Those are the shit. Especially Jet Set Radio Future. That game fucking rocks. If you know, you know. But we eventually got Halo Combat Evolved, and me and my mom and my dad, after dinner, would play Halo every single night. So, Halo is pretty involved with my core memories as a child. The thing that does drive me nuts about the Golden Era folks, though, and the iconic people, is you can go back and play Halo. The Master Chief Collection fucking rocks. I play Halo all the time. I stream Halo all the time. I play every single campaign like 3 or 4 times a year. They're not taking Halo from you. The shit exists. You can go play the shit that you love. Personally, I think they should expand and make more types of Halo games. I loved the RTSs. I love the total conversion mods in other games. Halo and Squad fucking rocks. Halo and Arma fucking rocks. Halo and Contracts VR fucking rocks. I am perfectly okay with there being more than just arena shooters. I just don't want them to stop making that also. And this brings us to a game that kind of added a secondary audience and really put those gripes that the purists were having right out in front on the game, and that was Halo Reach, which released in 2010. Reach was Bungie's dramatic, kind of bittersweet farewell to the franchise that they created. It introduced a darker and more somber tone, not too dissimilar from Halo 3 ODST, and it was a deeply emotional campaign about the inevitable fall of a planet and, most controversially, a host of brand new gameplay mechanics. And for the classic crowd, those purists, it was kind of the definitive point of no return. The introduction of persistent loadouts, the controversial bloom mechanic that added random weapon spread, and the advent of armor abilities like armor lock and sprint were seen as fundamentally breaking the core gameplay loop. But for a whole new wave of players, many of whom were a lot younger, Reach was their very first entry point, and this was their Halo. And so the Reach loyalists were born. This group values what Reach brought to the table. They celebrate its more cinematic, character-driven story and unprecedented levels of player customization. They don't just like Reach, they feel like they survived alongside Noble Team. The campaign's marketing, the Remember Reach tagline, and its tragic, heroic conclusion created a pretty powerful and lasting bond with the players. They'll defend armor abilities and the game's grittier art style with a passion that rivals any classic fan's defense of the original battle rifle. They argue that abilities like jetpack and sprint added new strategic layers, while the extensive armor customization gave them a personal connection to their Spartan. The clash between the classic and the Reach crowds has pretty much defined Halo's discourse for more than a decade, the Reach fans often feeling unfairly blamed for changes that Bungie themselves introduced, and they'll argue that Halo can be more than just a competitive arena shooter. It can also be a dramatic and immersive and heart-wrenching war story. Personally, I loved Reach when it came out. I remember reading the Game Informer magazine, and I particularly remember being very excited about the needle rifle. I remember not minding sprint and armor abilities. I kind of just hated that sprint was an armor ability. Halo is also just full of amazing characters, and Noble Team really fits that bill. They are pretty much 90% of the characters you meet throughout that game, and everybody else is just kind of a subsidiary to them. And each member of Noble Team doesn't really get a crazy amount of screen time or interaction, but you get personal moments with every single one, and you are sad to see them go. There is a third and less vocal group, though, and that would be the modern crowd. After Bungie passed the torch to a new studio, 343 Industries, now Halo Studios, and they took the helm, with them came a new era for Halo, starting with Halo 4 in 2012. The franchise saw its most drastic and polarizing evolutions yet. Halo 4 fully integrated sprint as a baseline ability for the players, which I liked, as I mentioned, and they added ordnance drops that functioned kind of like kill streaks and introduced a much more personal, character-focused narrative. Now, Halo 4's art style is pretty divisive. It is a insanely good-looking game for an Xbox 360. My biggest gripe is honestly the Covenant. Like, the Forerunner shit's fine, whatever, I can deal with that. The Master Chief looks alright, not my favorite armor, but it looks good still. But the Covenant look like ass, dude. I understand that they're not the Covenant, they're the Storm Covenant, a splinter faction, but why are they so fucking ugly? Beyond that, it's a pretty decent campaign, and they do a lot of cool shit with it, and the multiplayer, while not like a pure Halo experience, is actually pretty good. It's pretty fun. Feels good to play. There are some mods you can get that completely change the art style, and they make it a better game, honestly. It's a lot easier to look at. After Halo 4, they then released Halo 5 Guardians and went kind of all in on the movement, making unlimited sprint, thruster packs, ground pounds, and smart scope aiming, which kind of made all of that together a hyper-fast and super vertical gameplay loop. This era is kind of like what really gave rise to that modern crowd. The modern crowd is mostly made up of players who either joined with the 343 games or are simply just more open-minded to the idea that a franchise must change with the times. They're generally a lot more accepting of these advanced movement mechanics, seeing them as almost necessary modernization to keep Halo feeling fresh and relevant in a crowded market. They often defend the new narrative decisions such as the focus on Cortana's rampancy and Master Chief's humanity, and they're a little bit more appreciative in the attempts to build a more complex and sprawling universe. whether that be the Forerunner retcon from going from ancient humans to their own species, or the continuation of conflict through splinter factions such as the Storm Covenant or the Banished. Their core belief is mostly that Halo cannot survive by simply recreating the glories of 2007 forever. They argue that the franchise, to attract new players, will have to adapt, experiment, and sometimes even risk failure. They're the ones that patiently point out that nostalgia can be kind of a trap, and refusal to change is a death sentence for any long-running series. However, this group carries a heavy burden, often finding themselves in the thankless position of defending Halo 4, Halo 5, and Halo Infinite to an extent. From a constant barrage of criticism rooted in nostalgia for a bygone era, they're tired of being told that their Halo, the one that they love, is the wrong one. So, why? Why do these three groups clash so hard and so relentlessly? It's not just about arguing over which game is best. The conflict is mostly sustained by something much deeper, a fundamental disagreement over Halo's very identity. Each group believes with absolute sincerity that it is defending the real Halo. First and most importantly, they fundamentally disagree on what Halo is. Is it a balanced, skill-based arena shooter where everyone starts on a level playing field? Is it a gritty, emotional military sci-fi epic about heroism and sacrifice? Or is it a living, breathing franchise that must evolve with the industry and the audience to survive? They aren't just playing different games at this point, they're championing entirely different design philosophies. It's like three people arguing about the soul of a car, where one person is focused on the precision of the engine, and another on the story and the road trip that it enables, and the third on its ability to compete in a modern race. Their emotional attachments were forged in completely different fires. A player's first Halo often becomes their default Halo. It kind of sets the standard whether you started with an overwhelming mystery of the first Halo ring, the gut-wrenching tragedy of Reach, or modern high-speed saga of the Reclaimer. That first experience sets your expectations for everything that follows. This is why so many arguments feel like people are talking past each other. They're debating from completely different starting points and with different emotional stakes. Over time, these eras became more than just games. They became symbols. The original trilogy for the golden era purists, Reach for emotional depth and customization, and the modern era for controversial but necessary adaptations. So, after all this time, is there any hope for peace? Can these three armies ever find common ground? The answer, surprisingly, might be found on Zeta Halo. Halo Infinite, for all of its struggles, was 343's most direct attempt to broker a peace treaty. It sought to be a bridge between the generations. The game blended a classic-inspired art style and sandbox, bringing back equipment and weapon pads, and with a little bit of modern movement. Though it dialed it back from Halo 5's hyper mechanics by making things like the thruster and equipment pickup instead of a default ability, at its launch, especially during the early test flights, there was a brief, beautiful moment of near-unanimous praise, a feeling that the community might finally be united under one banner. And personally, I loved Halo Infinite. I still play it semi-regularly. Even the open world campaign I thought was pretty decent for what it was. But the peace was a little fragile, and the old divisions kind of remained, exacerbated by a lack of content, slow updates. While support for Infinite has certainly had its ups and downs, major updates like the return of Firefight and the over-expanding capabilities of its Forge mode have shown that there is still life in the game. Forge in particular has become a fascinating microcosm of this civil war, allowing players to meticulously recreate classic maps and modes and also build entirely new modern experiences, a digital armistice of sorts. The truth is, most Halo fans don't live exclusively in one camp. Many classic fans adore the story of Reach, and many modern fans still jump into the Master Chief Collection for a dose of nostalgia. The lines are far blurrier than the discourse would have you believe. The future of Halo, however, is already another major crossroad. In late 2024, a major reconstruction took place at 343 Industries, and they were later rebranded to Halo Studios, a move that they described as the start of a new chapter for the franchise. Part of the problem is that we've heard this like 4 times now, and it is kind of always the same shit. They also confirmed that all future Halo projects will be developed in Unreal Engine 5, leaving their own proprietary Slipspace engine behind. Which kind of sucks because they spent a fuckload of time on the Slipspace engine specifically for Halo Infinite, and now they're just kind of throwing it in the garbage because they don't know how to use it. But that's what happens when you try to build a big AAA studio and Microsoft hires 50 million contractors and then replaces them with 50 million more the next year. It's not fair to the fans and the consumers by default, but it's also not really fair to the studio either. And this being the monumental ship that it is, one filled with both incredible promise but also profound risk, it could be a fresh start the series needs to truly unify its fans. Or it could be seen as the final departure from its roots, potentially creating a new division. The potential for further conflict is always there. If there is salt to be had, the Halo community will find it. I'd like to make a lot of Halo content, but everyone is just so mad. But yeah, that's kind of my breakdown of this great Halo Civil War. But now I want to hear from you. Which camp do you fall into? Are you a classic purist, a Reach loyalist, a modern enthusiast, or do you float somewhere in between? Are you optimistic about the future of Unreal Engine 5? Or do you hate the idea and want them to go back to blam? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoy this kind of deep dive into gaming communities, consider subscribing for more. Ask me to make more of these, because I like these are cool. But in the end, the total conclusion to this deep, fractured, and often frustrating passion is perhaps the greatest testament to Halo's enduring impact. These 3 almost completely separate fan bases aren't fighting because they hate Halo, they're fighting because they love it, and they are all fighting to protect their version of it. The one that gave them unforgettable memories, epic battles, and a larger-than-life hero to believe in. They're fighting for the feeling they got the first time that they set foot on a mysterious ring world, the first time that they fought a losing battle with Noble Team, or the first time they boosted out of danger as the Master Chief. So while the Civil War may never truly end, perhaps that's the point, I suppose, at the end of the day, they all still show up, they all still debate, and they all still complain because they all still care. And in a world of fleeting trends and disposable entertainment, caring this much about a franchise approaching its 25th anniversary is a victory in and of itself. And a little footnote on the end of this, as far as Halo 5 is concerned, the campaign is kind of like shit from a butt, but Warzone was kind of dope. I liked that. Let's make Warzone again. That was cool.